Golf didn't lose young people. That's the story the industry tells itself, but the data tells a different story. Between 2003 and 2018, the sport shed 6 million players in the United States alone. The steepest drop was in the 18 to 34 age bracket, and the institutions responsible for growing the game spent those 15 years doing the exact opposite. The NGF calls it a participation correction. The PGA Tour calls it a demographic shift. But when you trace the money, the rezoning applications, and the broadcast contracts, a very different picture emerges. This wasn't apathy, it was architecture. And the blueprints have fingerprints all over them. To understand how golf locked out an entire generation, you have to go back to the moment the sport was supposed to go mainstream. 1997, Tiger Woods wins the Masters by 12 strokes at the age of 21. Overnight, golf becomes culturally relevant in a way it had never been before. Participation surges. By 2003, the National Golf Foundation reports nearly 30 million active golfers in the United States. Course construction explodes. Over 3,000 new facilities built between 1997 and 2005. Equipment manufacturers post record revenues. Junior golf programs see enrollment at all-time highs. The retail side followed. Big box golf stores expanded aggressively. Callaway, TaylorMade, and Titleist reported double-digit annual growth. Television ratings for PGA Tour events climbed to levels the sport hadn't seen since Nicklaus and Palmer. Corporate America lined up to sponsor anything with a fairway attached. The industry looked at those numbers and made a bet. Golf was going to be the next mainstream American sport. Developers built, investors funded. Manufacturers priced for a market that was never coming back. And when Tiger's personal scandal broke in 2009, the single biggest engine of mainstream golf interest stalled. The timing could not have been worse. Here's where the math stops working. By 2020, the average green fee for 18 holes had climbed to over $52, up from roughly $28 at the turn of the century. That's an 86% increase. Over the same period, real wages for Americans aged 25 to 34 grew by less than 8%. A single round of golf costs $80 when you factor in a cart, a range bucket, and a post-round drink. It takes 4.5 hours, not counting the drive. A gym membership costs $30 a month and fits into a lunch break. A pickup basketball game costs nothing and takes 45 minutes. The math was never going to work for a generation earning less in real terms than their parents did at the same age. And it's not just the direct cost, it's the invisible overhead. Golf demands equipment ownership, not rental ownership. A functional bag setup costs a minimum of $400 to $600. It demands a vehicle to transport clubs to and from the course. It demands a wardrobe. Most private and semi-private courses still enforce dress codes that require collared shirts, specific length shorts, and golf-specific shoes. For a generation that grew up in athleisure, that's not tradition, that's a gate. But cost was only half the problem. The entry point itself was disappearing. Between 2006 and 2020, the United States lost over 1,200 golf courses. The closures were not random, they were concentrated among public and municipal courses. The affordable facilities where a 22-year-old might pay $19 for a Twilight 9. Private clubs survived. The courses that served as the on-ramp for new, young, budget-conscious players did not. Hidden in the fine print of those closures is a pattern the industry didn't want you to see. A private equity moved in. Firms like Kemper Sports, Troon Golf, and Club Corp acquired struggling public and semi-private courses through the 2010s. The playbook was consistent. Acquire at distressed prices. Rebrand as premium. Raise fees, and if the numbers still didn't work, sell the land to residential developers. In markets like Phoenix, Las Vegas, and South Florida, former public courses became gated communities. The affordable supply didn't just shrink, it was actively converted. The PGA Tour, meanwhile, made a strategic decision that compounded the damage. Its broadcast deals with CBS, NBC, and ESPN were structured around the 45-plus male demographic, the most valuable cable subscriber. Marketing spend, sponsorship activations, and tournament scheduling were all optimized to serve this aging cohort. When younger audiences moved to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, the tour was years behind. Its first major streaming play was C, the Netflix docuseries Full Swing. That didn't premiere until 2023. That's a decade-long blind spot. Compare that to Formula One. Liberty Media acquired F1 in 2017. Within 2 years, the Drive to Survive Netflix series had created millions of fans under 35 who had never watched a Grand Prix in their lives. The sport's social media following tripled. The PGA Tour had the same opportunity and the same platform. It waited 6 years longer. By the time it acted, the generation it needed had already moved on. The National Golf Foundation tracked the decline in granular detail, but failed to fund programs that could reverse it. Junior golf participation initiatives existed on paper, but retention rates told the real story. Roughly 70% of new young golfers quit within their first 2 years. The pipeline had a hole in it and nobody was paying to fix it. Equipment manufacturers made their own calculation. Entry-level sets that once retailed for $200 were phased out in favor of premium product lines. By 2023, the average driver alone cost over $550. The message to a casual 25-year-old considering the sport was clear. This isn't for you. The industry, they didn't want you to see this. Every one of these decisions, the course conversions, the broadcast strategy, the equipment pricing, the neglected retention programs, was individually rational, each one optimized for short-term revenue. And collectively, they built a wall around the sport that an entire generation couldn't climb. Look at golf's current crisis and the through line is impossible to miss. The PGA Tour's merger negotiations with LIV Golf aren't about competitive integrity. They're about a sport that lost its next generation of fans and is now cannibalizing itself for Saudi capital to survive. The $930 million player impact program isn't growing the game. It's paying a handful of stars to maintain relevance on social media. The platform the tour ignored for a decade. Topgolf's expansion to over 90 locations tells you everything. Young people didn't reject hitting a golf ball. They rejected the 4.5-hour, $52 members-only version of it. Topgolf is the market's verdict on what the traditional industry got wrong. It stripped out the dress codes, the 5-hour time commitment, and the financial barrier, and young people showed up in the millions. And now the governing bodies are spending their energy on the distance rollback debate, arguing over how far a ball should fly while the stands sit half empty and the median golfer age creeps past 54. It's the most telling priority in all of professional sports. The house is on fire and the people in charge are rearranging the furniture. The sport isn't dying because young people don't care. It's dying because the people who ran it never made room for them. Golf didn't lose a generation, it priced them out, locked them out, and built a business model that guaranteed they'd never come back. Every course closure, every fee hike, every broadcast deal aimed at someone else's grandfather. It all added up. Nobody planned it as a conspiracy, but nobody stopped it either, because everyone with the power to reverse the trend was already profiting from it. The game didn't just change, it was change E for profit. Subscribe for more of golf's hidden history.